Hello, and welcome to the WTA webinar series with Pivot. WTA is a national trade association representing over 300 rural broadband companies across the United States. Our primary goal is to provide advocacy and educational opportunities to our members. Our next educational forum is in a couple weeks in Indian Wells, California. As you can see, Erin, if you want to switch to the next slide, please. As you can see, we have some pretty amazing destinations coming up in our future of 2025. I'm not going to point anyone out, but Kauai is pretty awesome. And I just want to thank you all for participating in today's webinar series with Pivot. And I will now turn things over to our speaker, Erin. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Taylor. It's great to be here, and I have a special guest joining me today. So we'll get right to it and we'll do our introductions. But first and foremost, why are we here today? We're going to talk about hiring, and not the actual part of hiring itself, the once you've hired someone, how to make sure that those first couple of months are super successful and go well and make a great first impression. But I have joining with me fellow customer experience, employee experience evangelist, Leif Street. He is our training manager. Leif, go ahead and introduce yourself for a moment.
Hi, yes, thanks, Aaron. My name is Leif Street. I'm the training manager here, as Aaron said, and I've been with Pivot since 2016, but in the industry for roughly 28 years since the first little peering of well, I can't call it broadband, of the internet as we know it now, with those blazing fast speeds of 384K that I know are going to make a comeback someday soon.
No.
No? Okay.
Oh, no, definitely not. Left in the past. But yes, Leif, thanks for joining me today. And I'm Erin Slafke, VP of Customer Experience for Pivot. And I've also been in the industry for a number of years. I'm approaching 30 years. So yeah, I know a thing or two about marketing and public relations and employee experience and communications and customer service and sales and all those things. So as does Leif. But
That's funny, though. You don't look a day over 21, Aaron. So
thank you. I'll pay you later.
okay.
And in ice cream. Okay, so I want to make sure to encourage, we've got a great group joining us today, so I want to encourage you that if you have questions, comments, you hear something maybe you disagree with or you agree with, whatever, I want to encourage you to pop down on your Zoom controls and use the Q&A button to share whatever questions you may have. We'll definitely have time for that as time goes along. And feel free to use chat if that so moves you. All right, so I wanted to start off a little bit with talking about this whole idea of hiring new folks and thinking about this idea of you've hired a new employee, seems like the hard part's done, right? Well, actually, no, the hard part's just getting started. Your success, I mean, of course, finding the right person is super important, but once you get there, your success really rests on creating a space where there's a sense of belonging that goes beyond just that welcome to the team and that initial maybe welcome email or meeting where the person's introduced. It's really creating a environment where they feel comfortable to ask questions, to be like, hey, I don't understand this. Can you explain it? And really help them navigate what to them is a brand new environment and landscape. It also you're successful also by showing them the ropes beyond their individual role. It's so helpful. We spend so much time, if you think about it, in our jobs, in our careers, and so that time should be understanding kind of where I fit into things and how I'm contributing to the greater good of the company I'm working for. And so finding the opportunity to help them see the context beyond the tasks and the responsibilities that their specific job description outlines, and seeing the whole picture. And so we're going to talk a lot about that today. We're going to talk about kind of the why of building an initial strong employee onboarding experience, what it takes to build an employee experience that's thoughtful and thought-provoking. We have 3 onboarding strategies that we're going to talk about and share with you. We'll also share some resources with you, and then invite you to a forum, an employee experience forum, later on next month. So once you're back from Hawaii, I'm so jealous. But once you're back from that meeting, get ready to join us here virtually again to just have a roundtable discussion about employee culture and building an amazing experience, and how employee culture and employee experience feeds into the customer experience. So let me get all my ducks in a row here and launch a poll that we will start with. So let's go for this. Just give me a moment. You should see on your screen there a question that asks you, and you can choose as many that apply to you. What elements do you have in your new employee onboarding program that are always part of that program? Are you having meetings with every department, touring the service areas, educating them about the industry outside of their specific role? Are you introducing them to your brand values, your brand promise, you know, what's important to your company? So we'll give everyone a few more seconds to go ahead and respond here. Looks like we got a good percentage of respondents. Oh, still changing a little bit. Give everyone another 10 seconds to cast your votes of the things, and as you're looking at that, I encourage you to think about if there's something you didn't vote for that you're not doing. These little hint, these may be things that you want to consider as part of your onboarding program. All right, so let me share the results. Looks like good percentage of you, yeah, a good percentage of you are doing touring, giving them a tour of the area. So important to have that context to understand, you know, who they're serving and what environment that they're coming from, what perspective, kind of helping them see things from the customer's perspective. That's followed by 67% of you are saying that introduction to company brand values is part of your program. So that's great. Followed by 60% are doing education about the industry as a whole outside of their role. So that's really important. Encourage that. And then a smaller number are having meetings with every department, about 47%. And so that may be something you want to weave in. And we'll talk about a way to kind of weave that in and make it something that's meaningful and memorable, so that it actually has an impact on their role, and that the department that they're visiting, it has an impact on them as well. So let's talk about the why a little bit. So it is so much easier and cost effective to retain an employee. And of course, it starts off first things with getting the right person. But in that interview, you can ask really great questions. You can really do a good job of trying to figure out, is this person a fit with the environment that we have here? But you really don't know till they're actually in the job. And so in that first 90 days, it's not just about you feeling them out, but they're feeling you out, or not you, but the company as a whole, and kind of seeing, not just you seeing what they're made of, but them seeing kind of what the experience is like for them, and is this long-term a good experience for them. And so that's where a systematic approach, a consistent system in place to that onboarding will not only create a welcoming environment, but it'll set them up for success for sure. So Gut, if you don't believe my words on that, I'll share a couple stats here that kind of further affirm how important that first, second, third impression is, because it's more than just that first impression. It's more than, it's beyond that first day or even that first week. And so 69% of employees have reported that they are more likely to stay, or what's been found in this study is that employees are more likely to stay for more than 3 years if they had a great onboarding experience. And so again, it's, even years down the line, it's still impacting if they're going to stay. 32% of, and this is a Gallup poll that changes, that's done every year, every quarter. This is actually Q2 results from this year. It kind of fluctuates a little bit, but seems to always hover in the 30s. But 32% of employees say that they are fully engaged and connected at their company. What that tells me is there is a good chunk of people who are not as engaged or are less engaged, and there's probably a percentage, hopefully small, but there's still a percentage of folks that are actively disengaged and thinking about where their next opportunity may be. And frankly, they will influence others. The engaged ones will influence people in the way we want them to influence. And so later on, we're going to talk about a buddy program. And so it's really looking and identifying for those folks that are super engaged, passionate, driven, committed to your mission, your living out your brand promise, finding those folks, keeping them engaged, and then kind of rooting out, not to get rid of, but rooting out those who are disengaged and trying to turn that around and figure out what's causing that lack of engagement, and how can you turn that around. And then finally, 59% less turnover is experienced by companies with high engagement. And so you're going to, a good percentage of folks or companies will experience, those who have highly engaged staff will experience less turnover. That's basically what that's saying. And so that's what we're looking for, is to build a community, a culture within your organization where people feel like they belong. You've created this sense of belonging, and people feel super committed to the work that you're doing. Let's talk a moment before we hop into the strategies. Let's just talk a moment about this idea of employee experience and what does that even mean? And then we'll talk about how to build that. But employee experience is defined by the relationships that we have with each other, the environment that we're working within, whether that environment is at a desk, in a home office like me, or in a vehicle going from job site to job site, or going from installation or trouble report to trouble report, or another shared environment like that. It's also defined by the access to tools and resources. And so when you think about advocating for your or building this employee experience, thinking about what makes up the pieces and parts of that employee experience will help you identify where maybe there's some work to be done. And so, yeah. So something else I want to mention about employee experience related to building that employee experience is, again, creating that sense of belonging. You'll hear me say that a few times, but it's also focusing on defining what that culture is and understanding kind of what experience you're creating. It's finding out how people feel and what their perceptions are about that experience, and then turning around and taking that information and investing in the environment, the tools, the professional development, the resources, looking at things that maybe certain tools made sense a few years ago that aren't meeting needs that they once did, because those needs and the environment has changed. And so evaluating those tools and resources to meet those changing needs. All right, so as promised, we're going to go through 3 different onboarding strategies here today. We are going to talk about a buddy system, having one-on-ones early on, right away, and then creating an environment or creating a system where you have consistent training for all. But I've got a few more words to say about each of these things. So buddy system, you remember it from kindergarten, like you were paired up, you had your buddy, and so you didn't get lost. And I want you to think about this idea of the buddy system of pairing up a new employee with someone who's not their supervisor. It can be someone within their same group, or it could be someone from outside, from another department. Or maybe for a part of the time, it's the buddy is someone in the department, and part of the time, it's someone from outside the department to give them exposure, help them build those relationships, and also just someone to ask some questions so that they, when you're a new employee, sometimes it can feel a little bit uncomfortable to, or feel like you're running to your supervisor, asking them so many questions, and or maybe that supervisor's not available, or maybe they are making themselves super available, but you feel like you're bugging them with some questions. That was some feedback I got from a longtime employee here at Pivot who, when she was relatively new, she's like, a buddy system would be great. And I'm like, hey, I can answer any questions you have. And she goes, I know you can, but I'd like the opportunity to not always have to come to you for every little question, like where the toilet paper is stored, if of course we're remote, but where the toilet paper in the bathroom in the office is stored if I need to get some, or whatever the case may be. But so the idea of a buddy system is really finding somebody who can be a resource for answering their questions, can be a resource for, maybe they're new to the area, and so it's making some lunch recommendations or coffee shop recommendations, or something related to the schools or their family. But it's finding this opportunity to have someone who can be a guide to help them navigate the new culture. And again, if they're new to the new area, all of that. And broken record here, but creating that sense of belonging, helping sort of expand on that. So that trail guide, that buddy that you're assigning them with, it's not just anybody. And so what I want to encourage you to think about is look for someone not just who knows how to do the job. That's an important role to play, but in this context, the buddy is someone who's super engaged with the mission of the company, is connected, is invested in not only that new employee success, but the success of the company overall. People love to teach and encourage others. It's in our nature, in human nature, to want to help. And so this is an opportunity for you to kind of seek that, or pull that out from someone and give them that opportunity to help someone else and teach and encourage someone else. It's a very rewarding experience. And so think of it kind of, by asking someone to be a buddy or a trail guide, you're kind of giving them a gift. I mean, it's work, but it's still a gift to help teach and encourage others.
So I just want to round this out a little bit, Aaron, because I think the term trail guide, or whether you call it some sort of an internal ambassador for the company, whoever it may be, I just think you've got those first 90 days, and we all know, we've all heard that term of the honeymoon period. And if you don't have that culture really sealed within that new employee within those first 90 days, what's the danger of them going rogue and falling into the wrong group of people? I've been talking a lot with my daughter, who is a leader at a company out west, and some of their new employees and interns that they've had, and the toxicity that has come about because they've fallen into that wrong crowd of not those engaged employees, not those that feel rewarded. And how has that then shaped their overall way to approach coming into this job for the first time? And so I think to have that person who is not, I guess, so to speak, the engaged, but the cheerleader type person. It's the same person we talk about for advocating for customer experience, right? But on the other hand, you got to have that same cheerleader on the employee experience side as well. So the more that you get those people hooked together, the right people, I think the happier that person is going to be, much more right from the start of their relationship with the company. So I think it's a very, very important piece.
Yeah, good points there. Thank you for chiming in. Yeah, I think it is this opportunity to make someone feel comfortable and part of something, and part of the right something. And that's a whole nother webinar of those who are to cover, like those who are actively disengaged or quote unquote the wrong crowd, and how to address them, because that's equally something you need to address within your company, because that's and there's reasons behind why they start to feel so unengaged or start to work against kind of the vision that the company has. And so to kind of unpacking that. But again, whole nother topic. And October 24th, when we have that forum, that would be a great question we could pose if that's something anyone else is encountering at their companies. So the second strategy for making that great first impression, second impression, or onboarding in the first 90 days is having one-on-ones early and often. And so establishing a consistent, regular schedule. And for the first couple of weeks, maybe it's every morning or every afternoon, just a quick 10-minute check-in. How are things going? What questions do you have? And then after a few weeks, you could dial that back to once a week, and depending on the role and the nature, maybe and the other cycles of meetings that you have, department meetings, all team or all employee meetings, things like that. Perhaps then it becomes every other week, every 2 weeks, one-on-one. But initially, just making yourself available. And I'd say, in addition, so supervisor, that one-on-one is critical to establish that. And then HR checking in regularly as well. That doesn't have to be every day or every week, but some periodic interval that makes sense, that's consistent no matter the role, no matter the new employee, so that they know, hey, it doesn't matter that I'm in this role. Human resources is taking the time with me, just like that other new hire. And for the supervisor employee one-on-ones, encourage you to think about creating a defined agenda, balanced with the freedom to speak. And so having maybe some probing questions, some high level, like topics to cover, and then definitely plenty of opportunity to raise whatever topics or questions or concerns that they may have. Also want to encourage you to think about opening with good news. It kind of just sort of sets the tone, and you'll learn something about each other that way. It deepens the relationship, especially early on. And so encourage you to kind of start off. It doesn't have to be high pressure. It could be good news of, it was lovely weather when I walked my dog this morning. I mean, or I had a college visit with my daughter, and what that was like. So then you kind of get to know each other a little bit better. Want to encourage you that as the supervisor, hosting the one-on-one, ask some probing questions. And so we have a couple suggested questions. So asking that new employee, what's something you've learned this week? What's kind of, tell me a little bit more about what's been on the horizon for you. Is there something that surprised you or that you weren't aware of? And then these last three are really important ones to help. And these could actually be, I use them for my one-on-ones as part of our standing agenda. Always start with good news, but then moving swiftly into, what support do you need? What do you need input on? What do you need my input on? What questions do you have for me? What are your priority issues? That kind of helps understand sort of if their priorities align with where you want their priorities to be focused on, and helps facilitate that discussion.
Erin, I just want to tie together these, and I would also encourage, perhaps over in the Q&A box there, if you guys have some way that you encourage, specifically what I'm going to talk to here is the power of using these probing questions in such a way that it opens up that freedom to share and freedom to speak. I think especially within that onboarding period, there's going to be that tendency, obviously, for somebody to feel more timid, and as though that they don't have all of the understanding of either the business organization or their specific unit, or the overall industry. And so I think there's a lot that they probably are going to be less likely to share, that I think really empowers and throws back to the importance of having that buddy program, because you may get more sharing then that may help you to amplify. But I would also say this is that I think it's a great idea to be open and upfront about the expectations. Have yourself a guideline of what questions we'd ask for you to be asking as you go throughout your work days or throughout your weeks, so that you come when we do have these one-on-ones, that when I ask you if there's support that you need, or that there's something that's learned that surprised you, that you're not fluttering around for these things, but rather we have those things in a developed context so that we can really get through to the heart of them and speak from an emotional level that helps us to become more of that unit, that culture that we develop anyway within our company.
Definitely, yeah, having that standing agenda where everyone is coming into the one-on-ones with the same sort of expectation, and starting with good news and then going through, what support they might need, what input that they may need, what priority issues, and there might be some other standing agenda items that are on there, and then of course in the one-on-ones, there's going to be an opportunity to talk about the specific tasks and those sorts of things. But I want to encourage you to think about the one-on-ones as being an opportunity to see, get to know them better, and for them to get to know you better, and have more broader, deeper, not broader, but deeper conversations, instead of, to me, like talking about tasks. I mean, that just comes with the territory. You're going to end up talking about that, but that's sort of surface level stuff. Let's dig into why are you even doing this project in the first place? Why does it even matter? So thinking about some of that context, I think, too.
I'd like to add one more thing to this too, and I think that it would be great from any and all companies. And I think that's one thing certainly that is a strength of Pivots, is that we have this uh, it's an unspoken, it's not something that is necessarily that we set this guideline for or parameters for, but I love the openness of the leadership across the different business units, that it doesn't matter if it's Dave or if it's Jeremy or our leadership in general, that are extending across, and they're not waiting for a specific instance to ask a question about how things are going, what's going well, all of these things. They're really demonstrated the culture by going out, walking the floor, and having a candid conversation off the cuff, unexpectedly, with somebody that is going to help them to open up even more so and encourage that sharing as well. So I just want to say that I think that, and I'll be honest, there's been times when it's been surprised me. It surprised me that I picked up my phone. It's been somebody from another business unit here at Pivot, and hey, we're just going to shoot the breeze for a few minutes, check in, how's everything going? And that's one of the best, most surprising and just encouraging ways to start a day, is to just get this unannounced call from somebody who you haven't talked to for months. But it's a great way to really build that culture.
I think for those who have remote workers, and remote defined by working from their home offices, remote might be that they work out of their trucks. Maybe they're in sales and they're all over your territory, and you've got quite an expansion, or they're working from company vehicles, not necessarily regularly coming into the office, because they're out there installing or in construction or whatever, finding those opportunities to connect, whether that be over the phone, as you just outlined, or some other way. I think that's, whether it's a new employee or someone who's been here 20 years, super important to think about weaving that in. And sometimes the surprise of it, the unexpected of it, unexpectedness of it, makes it even more powerful. So, but when it comes to the one-on-ones, we want those to be expected. So that it's always Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, or always Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. Ooh, who wants a meeting on Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock? Maybe don't do that. But anyway, so yeah. So our third strategy is the one that perhaps I'm a little most excited about, and because I've had the opportunity to kind of see the impact that training has on, and sort of materials, and introducing people fully. Quite a number of you did vote saying, or did in the poll respond saying that you are introducing people to your brand values, which is so great. and just want to encourage that and think about the context and how you reinforce that brand promise. And so I want you to think about, remember, joining a new company, a new employer can employment can feel like you're on a runaway train, or in this case, as you see in the picture, a runaway sheep. Is illustrated here, kind of can feel like, oh my gosh, hold on for dear life. I hope I don't go flying off. And so looking for early on, introducing them to your brand promise, your values, the customer experience expectations that you have, creating a tour. And so you can do that with an illustrated guide to the experience and your brand. I've got several examples here. I should have had these ready instead of over on my shelf, but all sorts of different experience playbooks, guides that we've done for. This is one of my favorite ones because it's such a beautiful area in South Dakota, the Badlands. But yeah, just this idea of a playbook that helps the employee understand kind of what are the expectations, what is the brand promise, and how in my role am I going to live out these brand values. And so looking to have that guide in place and an actual way to introduce that to the new employee, thinking that through, whether that's through a meeting here at Pivot. Dave and Jeremy, our leaders, sit down with every new employee and talk through our brand values. Other places, I know I've helped some companies create a video, and so then there's like a in-person meeting, and then they watch the video, and sort of that's a reinforcement of the message. And then creating a tour, like so a lot of you said that you do a tour of your service area. That's great. Don't stop that. Keep doing that. What I would like to suggest is you layer on top of that a tour, so to speak, of visiting every department. But not just, hey, go meet, here's a list of departments, go meet them, but actually a program that has some defined objectives and that are defined ahead of time. And so we have a few companies that we've helped create a passport program where kind of gamifying the idea of visiting these departments. And but the idea of having this passport in place is that then it's consistent no matter the role. Now, the individual role, the individual person coming to the table, their questions they might ask or what they pick up on during those visits might be a little different based on how, kind of where their perspective and experience is coming from. But really want to encourage you to think about, we've got one company in California that part of their passport program is for outside play or for construction. They're actually sending whoever it is, the new employee out there, to not only see a demonstration, but splice the fiber. Might be some fiber that then splice that you don't want to use, but just the idea of the hands-on, or watching a crew bury a drop, or another thing that they have in their passport is they have a particular team that works all their events. But for the passport, they will invite a new employee to join them at one of those events, so they understand kind of how that sales conversation is happening and the interactions and things like that. So just looking at, it's not just let me sit down and hear a whole bunch of stuff about these 10 departments, but what can I do to make that experience, adds a layer of hands-on or a layer of experience, really, experiential learning, I guess. And through that's going to help them understand where they fit into the bigger picture. And then the last part would be a comprehensive introduction to the industry. Our industry, frankly, is complicated and it's changing. I'm constantly learning new things. The other day, I learned that, I know a lot and can talk a lot about how speed and coverage and factors that impact that, but I learned that fireplaces and mirrors impact the signal strength I didn't know that. And I've been around a really long time. And not only did I learn it, but I learned why that even mattered and how to explain it and talk about it. And so just there's always the opportunity to be learning. I want you to think before we talk about, we're segue into our final bit here of a way to help with that training. I want you to think about, imagine if you put 5 people in a room with various ingredients, some measuring cups, utensils, teaspoons, tablespoons, flour, sugar, chocolate chips, granola, I don't know, avocados, whatever, like a bunch of different ingredients. And you said, hey, make something good. No parameters, no boundaries, just make something with what you see before there. You would end up with a wide variety of outcomes. Some of those might be quite tasty, quite good, and some of those might be quite gross and disgusting. And so just a silly little analogy to kind of draw you to the importance of offering context and setting some boundaries and some guideposts. And you do that through that training. And here's a way to start that so that you start off from the very beginning with getting people up to speed on our industry so that no matter what role they have, they understand things like bits and bytes, gigabits and gigabytes, and that they can talk about that. Maybe not to, depending on the role, maybe not to the level where they have to sell it, but at least understand enough of what they're involved with. And so that's actually the genesis of why we created an on-demand online training course called Broadband Fundamentals, curriculum rather, and not course, because there's 7 courses. It is all sorts of pieces of information in context to help them understand the industry that they're joining. I learned things, Leif, I don't know about you, but I learned things as we were putting this content together that I didn't know. And so no matter, this is good for those who've been in the industry for a while too. It's not just for new hires. And so I want to encourage everyone, we're going to go through in a moment what the courses consist of and some pieces about that. And Leif, you chime in as we go along, but just wanted to get out before we lose anyone that if check out our special early bird pricing before October 15th if you go to askpivot.com, or if you want to just cut to the chase and go ask us for more information directly, you can send an email to getinfo@askpivot.com. But before we go any further, I think it's important to talk about what's in this series of 7 courses. And so we start off with an introduction where we're talking about what broadband is anyway. How does the FCC define it? How has that definition changed over time? Why even broadband is an important part of our society, quite frankly, what it enables. Then we move on to talking about the industry and types of providers and types of structures. So what a cooperative is versus a family owned versus an investor owned. And in there, we've got all sorts of, bits of trivia and video and things to read and things to listen to and little questions along the way to keep people engaged. And in fact, in this particular course at the end, one of the homework assignments for the learner, the employee, is to find out, to go on and find out, read about the history of the company that they're now working for. Ask some questions about it to understand the deep, rich history that so many of those we serve, those that Pivot serve, our clients, those providers in the industry, those rich histories that you all have. And so kind of there's a mixture of like we're giving these broad strokes introduction, but then woven throughout all of these courses, we're encouraging them, the person going through the Broadband Fundamentals program to find out more about, okay, what specific technology do we offer, or plural, that might be you're offering several different technologies. And so that is actually course 3. We give an introduction to different types of technology. both so that they understand what a high level what your company might be offering, as well as understanding who they might be competing with. We've talked about this quite a bit internally here. We've heard some calls where someone, there's one call that comes to mind where someone, an employee was talking to a customer about, or prospective customer about getting service, and that customer or prospect was asking, well, what's the difference? And the response was, oh, there's not really any difference. We're just local and we're nicer, and it'll be, a more enjoyable company to work with. Well, turns out in that particular case, that prospect was going from DSL to fiber. Oh, yeah, there's a big difference. But unfortunately, that employee didn't understand. Maybe they didn't, benefit of doubt, maybe they didn't understand that where that prospect was coming from. But this course will certainly prevent that sort of scenario in the future, where they'll understand the difference between DSL and fiber and satellite and cellular and all those different technologies, in order to be able to say, yeah, we've got fiber, and here's why it's so much better than what you're coming from, and you are going to have a totally different experience. And I'll just make one side comment here of it local is important. Don't get me wrong there, but the average person, the typical customer, that's not going to be the final decision maker for them. It's going to be the value, the experience, those sorts of things. So anyway, going on with the rest of these courses that we have a whole section on terminology. It's not every single term that we have in our industry, but it's a lot of really good ones. It takes a very high level look at kind of the network as a whole. We don't drill down into all the intricate, there's cabinets and all these different things. We more stay higher level than that, understanding kind of from the customer's home or business out to the internet, the hops along the way, very high level. We talk about things like latency, last mile, those sorts of things, so that the new employee or the employee going through the course can really understand what it takes to serve that customer and to get them what they need. Then we move on and talk about equipment. We don't talk about particular brands or anything like that. We talk about things like, what a DMARC is, or what does it mean to have a mesh network, and everything in between, a modem, things like Wi-Fi. And then we move on to Leif's favorite course. I'm just kidding. We move on to everybody's favorite course, which is regulation. No, it's a super important element. And we talk about the key agencies and regulations that impact how you do what you do. And not all that, we don't dial into, every single aspect of the Telecommunications Act of 1996, but we at least talk about the importance of it. We don't necessarily talk about all the different things, all the different decisions that the Federal Communications Commission has made, but what its purpose is, so that the new employee has that context. And finally, we close out talking about the Internet of Things and how the number of devices inside a home is growing exponentially, and all the things that access to broadband is enabling. And we even throw in some fun trivia and fun videos in there that we've borrowed, just to kind of add some layer of humor. So Leif, anything you want to add to these 7 courses?
Well, it's kind of a mesh here. Okay. What I want to say is that, one observation just that I've made over the years is that I think that those within our industry, we do a great job of teaching our new employees the billing systems, where we run through everything, the nuts and bolts of that, how to process an order, how to write the order, how to whatever it may be. But we don't do a great job of talking about what it is truly that what are we selling here? What are we doing? And so I found, and actually it really surprises me when I have employees of these companies during a training when I'll be on site, and they'll have this revelation where they're like, we had no, what are you even, like, we have no idea what this is that you're talking about with the needs for different broadband speeds for different types of over the top services, or how do I even understand the fact that, oh my gosh, I didn't know that there were all these different options out there, or I didn't know that these were the differences in the technologies that we're competing against, or whatever it may be. And so to me, this helps to round out
Yeah.
the onboarding process. It gets us out of our rigid onboarding into our billing process, because that is so much at the core, but we have to create this well-rounded, very complete employee that has a broader understanding of really truly what their role is, what they're selling, and what their importance is in the industry as a whole.
Yes, definitely. That context can go such a long way to making a solid initial impression. And so, yeah, I think with broadband fundamentals, what you're going to get out of it is it's going to make that onboarding easier, more consistent. It's not the only element of that onboarding. We just talked about buddies and buddy systems and one-on-ones and passport programs and other things that this is part of a whole. I think this series of courses will help teams by getting a new hire up to speed on the industry quicker, as you mentioned, understanding the context. It's going to help them, with their role, and how it'll help them see, hey, maybe there's a different way to do this. I think it's also helping them build that, or helping you as a company build a strong employee experience initially. I think our humor and trivia and videos and other quick engagement tools woven into the training helps kind of keep the employee engaged and tuned in to what they're learning. There's definitely sprinkled throughout some bits where we're asking them to, go, as I mentioned before, go and read about your company history, or go and ask someone about the structure of your network, or those sorts of things. Go on a visit. This is very much, once they have this context, it marries well with those tours of the service area or shadowing different departments, things like that. I think the other important part about this is we've broken it up in such a way that it's easy to sort of weave into any kind of onboarding schedule. So, maybe it's one segment a day over the course of 7 days in a row, or it's, a handful of segments in one week and then another week, and kind of breaking it up as it makes sense to you. So it's definitely has that degree of flexibility. And as I mentioned before, we do have an early bird rate good until October 15th. So just in time for you to get back from the WTA conference, you could get some seats that you then could use next year or use right away. We're enrolling folks almost on the daily for this program. So you can start it when you want to start it. That's the beauty of it. Leif, anything else you want to say about this course and how it fits into a well-rounded onboarding experience?
Well, I just want to pick up on something you just said. I mean, there is the flexibility within it, right? Because it is on demand, because it's self-paced. It allows those new employees, if you do set aside 1 hour a day for them to go through the course, or if you set aside a full day for them to complete it all at once, or you say, we're going to do this over the next 6 weeks, we're going to create this consistent course learning schedule with it. It does offer that level of flexibility, which I think is very helpful, especially when you're still trying to teach everything else that you are to this new employee, but you're still trying to satisfy the demands and the needs of all of your customers or members that are out there as well. So to me, that's one of the biggest things. The other is just to keep in mind, because we do acknowledge that this is not, or we try to reinforce that this is not just for new employees, and it's not just for frontline employees. It's for everybody within your company. It's for those that have been there for 20, 15 years, whatever it may be, and they've forgotten more than that after all these years, there's been so much that's happened. It's a good reinforcer of all those things that they know. But I will just say this, for those individuals that you're going to run your outside plant guys through this, or your INR team, whoever it may be, it is a mobile first platform that it's built on. So feel free to download the app onto the device, whether it's a tablet or a mobile phone or whatever it may be. Go out in the field and you have the learning right there in front of you, just the same as you would if you were sitting at your desktop or at a laptop in the office. So very flexible program and platform that this is developed on.
All right, thank you. So last but not least, again, you can learn more at askpivot.com, but I also want to mention to you, since you have registered, we will make sure once we have things put together, we will make sure we send out an invitation to you all for a forum and in October 24th. So it'll be that afternoon or late morning for those on the West Coast, but we're still putting our plans together for that forum, but the idea will be come to that with questions that you have related to building an amazing employee experience and culture. Whether it's for new hires or not, the forum's a broader topic than that. So we'll just kind of see who joins us and what they have to ask. So as part of the registration, we'll probably ask you for, not probably, I do know that we're working on setting that up, and we have a question in there about, what's a pressing topics to help us so that when we come to the forum, we know kind of what to talk about. But if you do have any questions for us, I know we're at time, but if you do have any questions for us, either about any of the onboarding strategies we've talked about today, building an employee experience, creating that amazing first impression in the first 90 days, or our on-demand learning program, of course, feel free to reach out to me here you can see my digits in my email there, as well as going out to our website, or send an email to letsgo@askpivot.com. One of those ways will get you what you need. So I'll just leave that up on the screen in case you want to jot it down, or if there's something you heard that you want to unpack a little further. We did a similar session a couple weeks ago, and earlier today I got an email asking about the passport kind of idea and some more details about that. So happy to share what I've seen work, what Leif and I have both seen work really well at different companies.